sometimes you'll need to convert from one unit to another. For example, if you have this in centimeters, you might need it in meters or something like that. So to convert, we need a conversion factor, which is a ratio that expresses how many of one unit are equal to another unit. For an example, going from inches to centimeters, I want to know how long this is. I know it in inches. I want to go to centimeters. I can use this conversion factor. So 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. This one's exact. Sometimes they're rounded. Written another way, 1 inch, since we can divide both sides by the inch, you can say 1 is equal to 2.54 centimeters per inch. And what that means is that because this is 1, you can multiply by 1 or divide by 1, and it doesn't change a quantity. So if you think about this as, 2.54 centimeters per inch, and I want to convert something, what length of 20 inches? So we've got a length of 20 inches. How many centimeters is that? Well, I can take my original length of 20 inches, and I can multiply it by my conversion factor to try and cancel out the inches. So I'm trying to get rid of inches and end up with centimeters. I want to put inches on the bottom so that when I have inches divided by inches, they cancel out. So I'll take my 20 inches, and I'll multiply it by, this little dot I'm using for multiplication, 2.54 centimeters per inch. And what that does is now inches divided by inches gives you, just like 2 divided by 2, it gives you 1. It just cancels out. And we're left with 20 times 2.54, so we get whatever that number is. It ends up being 50.8. And then the units tag along. We're left with centimeters. So we end up with 50.8 centimeters. That's a basic unit conversion. Let's consider another unit conversion here. We're going from iron's density of 7.86 grams per cubic centimeter. We want to convert it to kilograms per cubic meter. Well, we need some conversion factor. So I can either look up conversion factor directly from grams per cubic centimeter to kilograms per cubic meter, or I can use a few conversion factors together and say, since these are standard metric prefixes, I can either remember these or look these up on the chart and say that 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram, and 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. With that, we can now say that 7.86 grams per cubic centimeter, which is the thing I want to convert, we'll now multiply that by the conversion factors, these ratios of these two numbers, to cancel out the things we want to cancel out. So I want to get rid of grams, so I'll put grams on the bottom. And now I say, how many grams is that? Well, it's 1,000 grams is equal to 1 kilogram. So multiplying by 1 kilogram over 1,000 grams is the same as multiplying by 1. It doesn't change anything. So we'll multiply by that, and that should cancel out the grams. We can then multiply by this other one. I want to cancel out cubic centimeters. Well, I don't have a cubic centimeters, but I do have a centimeters, so I can say centimeters on top to cancel out the centimeters on the bottom. Now I need to cube this in order to get a cubic centimeters. And so what that'll do is I'll end up with 100 cubed, or 1,000,000, cubic centimeters per cubic meter. And let's go ahead and just write that out so you can see how this works. We now have 7.86. Well, we already canceled out the grams, so let's leave those canceled out. So this is just 1 kilogram over 1,000. And then times 1,000,000 cubic centimeters per cubic meter. So I've just cubed everything in here. So 100 cubed, centimeters cubed, 1 cubed is still just 1, meters cubed. So now the centimeters cubed will cancel. And you see this ends up being 1,000,000 divided by 1,000 is just the same as multiplying by 1,000. And so we end up with 7,860, or I might instead choose to write that as 7.86 times 10 to the third kilograms per cubic meter. So there we go. And just to be clear, that's 7,860 if you wanted to write that out without using the power of 10 there.